So really the idea is that turnkey allows you to easily, get started investing or get started out of state, or easily scale and diversify your portfolio regardless of what else you're doing in real estate to, invest in some of the best markets where a team's already established. And we're going to walk you through the whole process and make sure we're setting you up for success.
You're listening to Ice Cream with Investors, a podcast that is dedicated to teaching you how to better invest your money so that you can live a more intentional life. I'm your host, Matt Four, and it is my goal to teach and empower you to remove the roadblocks to your financial success.
All right, Zach, welcome to the show.
Matt, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here. I feel like we need to be eating ice cream as we have this show, but I didn't come prepared, but yeah, excited to be here.
Hey, that's my goal, is when I'm go to these conferences, somebody will be like, "You're Matt from Ice Cream with Investors. Can I buy you free ice cream?" And that is how I'm going to get free ice cream for the rest of my life.
There you go, my man. It's unique. I like it.
Long-term play. Well, we like to start with the difficult questions here. What is your favorite ice cream?
I'm a pretty easy run-of-the-mill, simple guy. And actually, I think cookie dough is probably the best. So,
okay.
Good old vanilla or cookie dough.
The last 3 episodes I've recorded, the answer has been cookie dough. So I feel like I'm missing the boat here.
Man, you just can't beat it. You get or you get some warm cookies, and you put it into vanilla and make your own. We got to stop. It's Friday afternoon, man. We got to stop.
All right. Well, tell our listeners, what's the scoop? What do you do today?
So my name's Zach Leemaster. I'm the founder and owner of Rent to Retirement. We are one of the nation's leading turnkey providers. And I know that we'll talk about what turnkey is for those people that are unaware. But our goal is to make investing accessible and easy to investors, regardless of where you live, to allow you to have the ability to invest in the best locations throughout the U.S., where you don't have to go and build your own team and systems from the ground up. We've already done that for you. That's on our business side. On the personal level, I know that we'll go through my story, but when we talk about turnkey, a lot of this is investing throughout the country in like small multi-family or single-family houses, but we actually participate quite extensively into the commercial space on retail as well as some higher-end short-term rentals, just something that we do on our end as well. So love real estate.
Gotcha. Well, tell our listeners, where'd your real estate journey begin?
So I started a career path that had nothing to do with real estate. My wife and I are both optometrists by education. We met in Portland, Oregon, many, many years ago, and got married after school. I was on a health profession scholarship with the Air Force that paid for part of school. And so I joined the Air Force for 7 years after school, was stationed in North Dakota and Germany. I practiced as an optometrist there, as a captain in the Air Force. That's where I started investing in real estate. Really, I think like many people, I read the Purple Bible, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and, got the bug. And so I used my VA loan, house hacked a duplex. I lived in half, ran out the other half, just kind of opened up the door to opportunity with real estate investing. And this is probably 15 years ago at this point, and then continue to invest after that. And I tell everyone, one thing that we've done and made it a goal of ours to do just personally is every single year since that first duplex, we bought more and more real estate every single year. And that's allowed us to scale dramatically to the point where we were able to replace our active income as working as doctors through real estate investing. And that didn't happen overnight, but it did happen over a handful of years with just kind of a strategic roadmap and staying consistent to invest. And specifically, it really took off and allowed us to expedite our goals when we started to invest out of state, not just looking in our local market, because that's what we felt comfortable with. But it's obvious that there's a ton of markets out there that may have better opportunities, likely have better opportunities in our own backyard. And so once we learned how to invest out of state strategically, that really allowed us to expedite our goals to kind of fast forward where we're at today is running a turnkey business, allowing investors to do the exact same thing that we did. And really the foundation of Rent to Retirement is simply that. We had a lot of friends and family and colleagues that were like, hey, we see what the success you're having in real estate, what you're doing. We're not, we don't know how to get started investing out of state. We don't know how to build this strategic portfolio, or maybe we don't want to, but we still want to invest in real estate. Can we invest with you? And that was the foundation of our business. So that's about as quick a version as I can give you.
Well, you mentioned a couple of things there that I want to touch on, but to make sure that we have a level playing field here, what is turnkey investing?
Yeah, turnkey is one of these buzzwords, right? And so it's really broadly defined. So what we mean, Matt, when we talk about turnkey, these are houses that are either newly rented or fully renovated or newly built leased, and professionally managed by the teams that we've established in these areas in a market that we've identified to be a successful investment market. Areas that have landlord-friendly legislation, low taxes, high rental rates relative to home prices, so you can cash flow in the path of progress with population and economic growth. So really the idea is that turnkey allows you to easily, get started investing or get started out of state, or easily scale and diversify your portfolio regardless of what else you're doing in real estate to, invest in some of the best markets where a team's already established. And we're going to walk you through the whole process and make sure we're setting you up for success.
Yeah, and you mentioned that, I like to say that real estate is a team sport, right? You've got property managers, contractors, legal, CPA, you got to find deals, you got to close deals, all that kind of stuff. And one thing that really interests me for high paid professionals is this idea of walking into a team already set, because that's the most challenging part, I think, about growing a single family portfolio is having that full team around you that's capable. So how does an investor, they go to your website, they see the inventory that you have there, they pick Birmingham, Alabama as an example. How do they integrate with your property managers, your financing, all of that?
Yeah, and it's a journey. We walk everyone through a journey. Our goal is to create long-term partnerships and relationships with our investors. We're not just selling them a turnkey house and saying, good luck, here's some resources. No one's here to buy one house to retire on tomorrow, right? You want to build a portfolio strategically diversified across multiple markets. And so we work consistently with our investors on their pace and their goals. The first thing you do is you set up a call with our investment strategists. And we don't charge investors anything for this. We make our money through the renovation and building of these houses like builders or rehabbers do. But the first thing we do is we get on a call with you and we go through your goals, your criteria, your timeline, your resources. We look at, we want to add value and education. And then we give you some homework steps. Typically, once we kind of have a roadmap, and that could take a handful of calls. It's okay if you're not ready, yet. We just want to make sure we're working on your timeline. But usually the next step is getting you established with a lender. You want to know what your buying criteria is, what your financing capabilities are. We have plenty of lender recommendations, whether you're trying to invest through like a self-directed IRA, whether you're using, if you can go conventional or you need non-conventional type like portfolio loans. We have a plethora of different lending options available to you. So we put you in touch with the right lender, you get your financing pre-approval. And then we take a more granular approach to look at, all right, what markets are the best markets for us to probably focus on based on, risk threshold, price point, appreciation versus cash flow, things like this. And then it's just a matter of finding the right property, going through the normal transaction that you would with any real estate property. Once you get close to the closing, and then we kind of integrate you with the management side where we get you set up with your managerial account, your dedicated local point of contact for management. And it's just this journey, Matt, we walk everyone through at the appropriate time, but just to understand we're walking you through the entire process. It sounds like a lot, which it is. I mean, when you're going through buying a process, but you're not having to worry about, finding a deal, right, in the right area, educating yourself. You should educate yourself on the markets, but I mean, you don't need to build your own team from the ground up, which has taken us a long time, a lot of time and energy and money to do that. So that's what you get immediate access to.
Yeah. And it took me a lot of headaches to build that team as well that I have here locally. And I wouldn't say that it was successful in the first time around. So knowing somebody that has this type of scale that you all do to go and vet some of these parts of your team is extremely impactful. One of the things that turnkeys kind of get a bad rap on, though, and I would love to hear your answer to this, is really the renovation process. So do you all offer any kind of warranty or guarantee on the renovation process? Because I think if you read some of the blogs out there, it's, hey, I invested in a turnkey, rehab was a little shoddy, and now I'm having to deal with that problem.
Yeah, and this is where I think that turnkey is such, people want to automatically lump turnkey into this category. It's like turnkey really has nothing to do with it, right? If you're buying a house and someone else has either done work on it or not, you need to go through the responsibility falls in your lap as a buyer, right? So don't blame someone else on stuff that's happened. Now, yes, there has been turnkey companies where they've done, nefarious things where they're trying to be under this turnkey classification where they require you to buy all cash and close in a week, right? When they don't allow property inspections. All those things are red flags. Like, I would not encourage anyone to buy a property if you can't go through the normal due diligence. But generally speaking, if you're going to buy a property out of state or locally, you have to go through and vet the property the same way, right? I think actually, if you're working with a good reputable turnkey company like ourselves, because I'm very proud to say that we have a fantastic reputation. If you just Google us, you will see, hundreds and hundreds of excellent reviews. Not that we're perfect, but we stand behind our projects, right? Where whether there's a warranty in place or not, which I'll get to your question in a moment on that aspect. But I mean, my point is that you need to go through and do the normal due diligence. And whether someone did a job, because we may even miss some rehab stuff, right? And like, that's okay. That's why you have inspection reports, appraisals. You make sure you're working with title, get free, clear title. But it's important. I think working with a reputable turnkey, like they are going to be a seller that's probably going to be easier to work with to say, oh, because the expectation coming in is that the house is renovated versus a seller just selling as is. So if something's missed on an inspection report, there's a high likelihood we're going to take care of it. Whereas a normal seller may say, no, it's buy as is, like in most cases, right? Unless it's, especially in that, if it's a strong property. But typically our general rehab requirements is that we want to have at least 10 years of life expectancy in the CapEx items, the major tickets, your roof, your HVAC, electrical, plumbing, like all that needs to be updated to code, of course, and have at least 10 years of life and then remaining in it. Otherwise, we'll fully replace it. We want to see, obviously the cosmetic things that are done appropriate to the neighborhood class to attract the best renters. And we have a whole scope of work that we provide, as well as what is, what's going to come back on your inspection report. And you're going through the due diligence. Yes, we're going to provide that to you, but that's why you get third-party inspectors. And that really protects both of us in the transaction. As far as warranties go, it's on a case-by-case basis. If we're talking about rehab things, because there's really two things we're looking at. We're talking about a turnkey property that's like Midwestern rehab property, or build to rent new construction, which is about half of what we do. Obviously, with new construction, everything's brand new. And those are in great areas. You have 10-year structural warranties. You have a 1-year comprehensive warranty on everything. So that warranty is going to be more extensive than, say, a turnkey rehab deal. But the point is, if someone has an issue, like we try to work with them to deal with those in a reasonable amount of time frame, because we want to keep those people coming back to buy more, obviously. So that's a very extremely long-winded answer, but.
Got it. Well, I want to talk now about the build to rent, because when I think turnkey, again, I kind of put this in a box, and that's my ignorance, but I think about people that go in, companies that go in and rehab properties and make them easy for investors to buy. I've never seen anybody do turnkeys on the build to rent side. So talk to us a little bit about build to rent. And then if I'm an investor, how do I make the decision between maybe an older property that's been rehabbed or a build to rent property?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're super excited about build to rent, and I'll go through kind of the bullet point reasons why I think they're a great opportunity. But ultimately, our kind of opinion over time is like own both, as you're building a diversified portfolio. Now there's some reasons why it would be, someone's portfolio might be better off to have a higher percentage of new construction. If you're really someone that if you have a good amount of capital you want to invest, and you want to just no headaches where you're not having maintenance and things like this, and you want to bank a little bit more on the appreciation side, because you'll likely have better appreciation both in rents and market value over time, then new construction is great for you, although it's higher price points. So here's kind of the pros and cons of looking at new construction. One, new construction, usually they're in areas, as we mentioned, that are in the path of progress. We want to be in areas that there's a lot of population moving to. So naturally, we're going to be doing it in the Southeast. Florida is our top market for build to rent, and Florida, like last year, had the highest percentage growth out of any state in the country, and it's just blowing up, and it still is, because no income tax, nice weather, generally favorable politics for investors, business owners, and it's depending on the part of the state, low cost of living. So, anyways, there's a lot of people moving to Florida, and that's where we do a lot of build to rent. General price points could be in that $300,000 to $400,000 range. And it requires more of a down payment. It requires you to be a little bit patient, because often what we'll do is we'll market these things where, we may be 120 days out to completion, and then you put down a deposit, and then the house is built, just go through your normal due diligence and then close on it. But you may not have as like a super attractive cash flow year one. And that's okay, because it's in an area that, like, from my opinion, as long as it is positive cash flow still, you're in an area that's going to have market rents increase over time because of demand. For example, in Southwest Florida, we saw a 22% increase in rents since last year, which is crazy. That's not sustainable. But even, it's a good year if you get to above 5% rental increase. So that's just part of being where there's a lack of supply and lack of supply and high demand. So that's kind of what the build to rent looks like. As far as the turnkey rentals, those are going to be lower price points, like in the $150,000, $200,000 range. So it's less money down. the numbers are probably going to look better initially on a cash on cash return, but you could have more variability with those, more maintenance, right? And I think it's just, what works in your portfolio, and what's attractive to you to meet your goals. That's part of going through this journey and working with you with our team is, coming up with a strategic plan. Maybe build to rent is, a better option for you if you really want to be more passive, or you like just being completely hands off. You like being in a better class area. And right now is a unique opportunity because of where the market's at, where, we actually are selling stuff $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 below market value because we ramped up building, a year and a half ago when demand was still high and demand's lowered a little bit. So it's actually an opportunity to come into immediate equity where maybe you can do cash out refi a little bit quicker than you could otherwise. It's kind of a unique opportunity. So we're really excited about the build to rent space, but the process is the same on the back end, right? After it's built, get a tenant in there, get a property manager, and then focus on the next thing.
What's your average price point for your build to rent models? I mean, obviously it varies by market and et cetera,
and those are mainly single family. We do have some duplexes mixed in there, between that $300,000 to $400,000 range.
Gotcha.
We have a few that's just sub 300, but yeah.
Gotcha. Very affordable and below the average across the country. I think the average across the country is like 430, so still below that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that's part of being in that area where you have, generally low property taxes. You know what I mean? So it's, from a cash flow perspective, it's very rare to find new construction that you can actually be positive cash flow on if you're not putting down like 40 or 50%. And
Agreed.
so, it's a unique opportunity for sure.
Agreed. You've talked about a couple of markets here in Path of Progress, and on your website, you've got top 20 markets in 2023. What are some of those markets that you all are focused on specifically right now?
Yeah, some market highlights. I think some of the best locations. It depends again what your goals are because the markets are going to vary. But like Midwest we do most of our investing in Midwest and Southeast on the residential stuff. And so Midwest, I really like Ohio, and probably Kansas City, Missouri. We're doing a lot right now in what we would consider to be secondary markets. These are areas that are just outside of like a large primary metropolitan area because the cost of living and affordability and opportunity is, it's just much cheaper out there, and you can cash flow a lot better, find better opportunities. So an example of this would be like a Barberton or Akron, outside of Cleveland, where you can still pick up a house that's in a B-class area for $120K. Now, this is not going to be your crazy appreciation market, but this is going to be your bread and butter cash flow market that has high rental demand, and it's a lower price point. So, not many parts of the country can you come in and buy a renovated house for $120,000 and still cash flow on it well, right? So, and be in a decent area. So we like those areas. Kansas City, Missouri is another strong area. Same thing, suburb areas like Independence, Blue Springs, Raytown. Those are all areas that we've done quite well in, more family-oriented areas, but they're still commutable to the city. So that's kind of Midwest. I think top two markets, Indianapolis is good as well in the right location, although price points are creeping up there. Southeast, we do a lot. Florida is our best market right now. We mainly do build to rent. But same thing with the secondary markets there. For example, we work in Polk County, which is just outside of Orlando. And this is just, filling in dramatically. The house we built there, that's to be specific in Poinciana and Polk County. This is a house we built for $322. It's a 4.2. It rents out between $2,300 to $2,400 a month. And this is a nice, modern, nice looking house. You can see it on the website. Those are appraising it between $350 to $360. So you're coming in with immediate equity, and you can still have positive cash flow based on those numbers. And I think that's just a great build to rent product. We also do Alabama and Texas. Texas, you basically have no cash flow because of property taxes and build costs, but it's an appreciation play. So those are our main markets right now.
Gotcha. You've been investing for 15 years now, and one of the things I'm trying to get from a lot of conversations I'm having right now is, where do you think we are in the market cycle? Can you give us your synopsis on where we are in the real estate market right now?
Yeah, I just got to look into my crystal ball here and
rub it.
Yeah. Have a bowl of ice cream with me to help me out here. But I think that there's a lot to consider. When we talk about market cycle, every market cycle is different, and so we can't really look back at. Yes, there's market cycles, and there always will be. but every single one will be different. There's just different financial, political circumstances. Like right now the market is still very strong, right? Everyone expected, and it's interesting. I just want to talk about the psychology too, looking back, Matt, because people have been talking about a market correction and crash for like 8 to 10 years now, right? And it's really just annoying and exhausting. And now this finally because all the people that sat on the timeline were like, oh, we're sitting and wait, and then they missed like one of the largest real estate booms we've had over the past like 50 years, and where everyone appreciated house as well and had an increase in cash flow if you just invested in something. And so there's really like timing. Don't try to time the market. Look at fundamentals. Try to see how properties are performing right now. And just there's always opportunity. You just maybe need to change your market that you're investing in or your strategy. But I think kind of what we're going to see over this year and over the next few years is likely a scenario where, and this is a reflection from the past 2 years where it was absolutely crazy, right? Seller's market, historically low interest rates that we'll probably never see again. And it's just crazy. A ton of money being pumped into the economy. And so people are just buying like crazy, and it was hugely competitive. Now actually is a little bit more of a level playing field. It's still technically in most markets a seller's market. People don't realize that, but in a lot of markets still a seller's market based on how many days are on market, where people are not seeing this reduction in house prices that we anticipated. Now, I think the market will continue to soften to some degree. But the fact is, all these people got these mortgages on their rental properties or their houses, or they refinanced over the past few years at a low interest rate. So people are also not selling unless they have to. And so it's like there's not a lot that's coming on the market either. It's all supply and demand. So because of that, and also there's still tax benefits that are super favorable right now. People still have capital to invest. So they're still making moves. Like it's still, I think, generally a strong market. We still have an undersupply in a lot of areas that we focus on. So I think it's just going to kind of be this kind of status that we're seeing right now for probably another couple of years. I anticipate interest rates will probably come down slightly because we've hit some stabilization with a little fluctuation. And the Fed has come out and said, hopefully over the next year, we'll start to see interest rates slowly creep down, but it's not like they're going to hit back down to 3% for an investment property. That's just crazy, right? So I think that will just continue to kind of float by, and I don't know after that. I really don't know after that. We'll have to see who gets in office and where things go. But I do know that there's a lot of people that are investing still currently. We are as well. And there's still opportunity to be had. You just got to, don't sit on the sidelines.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still a net buyer right now, just to be clear. But I'm interested, how does your investment thesis or strategies change in this type of market? I guess that's a better question.
Maybe a lot of this is driven by debt. So I'll talk on the business side, and then I'll talk personally. On the business side, we are always looking at it really hasn't changed at all. I'll say this, we can still pick up deals. We can maybe pick up rehab deals a little bit better than we were able to a year ago at this point in time. However, it's not like those have opened up dramatically either. So we're focusing a lot on the build to rent space. There's still land availability, construction costs. Yes, they've gone up. So that's just been factored in, but so has market value and rents. So the numbers that we anticipated a year ago on the build to rent stuff are actually better now, even though it's more expensive to build the house. But we're just trying to really just follow the same fundamentals in the markets where it makes sense, where people still cash flow well. It's our disposition on the rentals has slowed down to some degree with investor activity. Maybe we're at 70% of where we were last point this year. So maybe we'll hold some more properties than we anticipated, which is fine because we're, in cash flowing areas anyways. So we might have to go through some debt restructuring and hold properties. On the personal side, which we buy a lot, we buy two main asset classes. We've gone through, so I don't own a lot of residential anymore. I did at one point in time. I spent, many years of my life growing residential, and I think it's a great asset class to have. But we've appreciated those houses, and we've got through 1031 exchanges, and now we buy triple net retail commercial spaces. We have 11 facilities at this point, or 11 buildings with multiple tenants. And we have what we're buying now, and we do cost segregation studies on those to reduce our taxable income because we're real estate professionals. And this year it's still 80%. And that is really driving our investing activity over the past probably five years. So this year we're still doing that. But one thing that's been more difficult for us, like a lot of people, is just where the debt is. Not necessarily interest rates, but just the overall lending pulse, because the commercial space varies dramatically. And basically, Yeah, liquidity, and we got to have more money down. We got to meet their DSCR requirements, and there's not a lot of commercial stuff on the market. So it's become actually that asset class has become more challenging, but residential still chugging along.
Where are your retail locations?
They're all on the Front Range in Colorado here, where we're at. So anywhere between Fort Collins to Colorado Springs.
Gotcha. And a triple net lease means the tenant is paying the insurance, the maintenance, and the property taxes, correct?
Yep, correct. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. How did you guys find that? Did that come through your normal business activities or just local investment?
No, I mean, we buy, we're just buying stuff that's publicly listed. I got a great broker that we work with for 5+ years now that, he's sourcing. He basically works almost exclusively for us. I mean, he's sourcing deals nonstop for us. These are not off-market deals. These are not distressed deals. These deals are turnkey deals. They are, right? I mean, we talk about turnkey, but if we buy turnkey, this is about as turnkey as it gets, especially when we get into these triple net long-term leases that some are corporately guaranteed. But these are properties that are their 5 cap. They're not super sexy cash flow. I'm putting 25 to 35% down on them. But it makes sense for us because these are long-term holds. We're rolling capital of 1031 exchanges into them. We're putting money down to buy them, and we're taking accelerated depreciation, where if we buy $1 million asset, we can take the $300,000, write-off year one against all income sources. And so it's really a tax play, but also a long-term play for us. And so I think it's important to know, that's turnkey. And it's fully leased, fully occupied properties with long-term leases in place. And that makes sense for us too, right? And it's just, so it's, I think when you're looking at your investing portfolio and goals, and we do a lot of different things in real estate, like turnkey can make sense for you in some, depending on what your goals are. Even if you're an active investor, we have some people that are high level active investors. For example, Pace Morby, who is the go-to guy on creative finance. He just bought a property last year in Florida with us that was turnkey. And he did it like some of these active guys, they do that so they can buy more properties to do that exact same tax strategy that I just talked about, because they can't just, they make enough money. They just need to buy more real estate to offset that. Right. So turnkey could serve that avenue.
Yeah. And I love what you said about triple nets. I mean, I just view triple nets as like a bond wrapping some tax benefits around it, because you're not having to pay any of the maintenance, any of the insurance, any of the taxes. You're not going to cash flow super well, but normally you have institutional quality type retailers, Starbucks, Walgreens, AutoZone, the people that aren't going out of business anytime soon, occupying those properties.
Absolutely. And that has its own risks and challenges too. Like I had a lot of people that said, well, what the hell are you doing investing in retail during COVID? Because some people got very fearful of, and retail is a challenge. Like it is, I think, geographically dependent. We had to offer some concessions for the tenants, to allow them to, because we do have some mom and pop owners as well, but it has its own risk associated with it. But yeah, I think having a diversified portfolio across different markets and different asset classes is a good way to go. And certainly if you were interested in like the larger commercial type of stuff, cut your teeth and build your foundation with single family or small multifamily, and then grow that over time, right? That's the most predictable recession-proof asset class because everyone needs a good house to live in, especially if you're kind of in that B-class area. Always have rentability and demand. And then it allows you to kind of build up your experience, especially in the lending eyes, build up your ability to qualify for higher stuff over time.
Yeah, I was just talking to an investor earlier, and he said, what would you do if you were me now? A credit investor, 26 years old. And I said, well, you need to get a stable foundation of cash flow first. Don't go be making asymmetrical bets into developments and Bitcoin and whatever is out there that says you can triple your money in 2 days. Don't do any of that until you have a stable foundation of cash flow. And I believe that's in residential, whether it's single family, small multifamily, or multifamily apartment complexes.
100%, like 100%. Yeah.
You're also a guy that's grown your brand and business tremendously. I almost joked at the beginning that if you've never heard of Rent to Retirement, then you've been sleeping for the past 5 years. It seems like every podcast I turned on, you yourself or your company was involved in some way at some point. And you guys have scaled to a tremendous business now. I'm sure it wasn't all roses and easy. So one thing I like to ask is, what were some of the challenges along the way?
Yeah. And we've had tremendous growth, almost like over 100% growth year after year over the past, decade plus. which does come with its own challenges internally with business and real estate, of course, as well. And it's like last year we did over 1,000 doors, which is a lot, and it takes a community to just run that appropriately. But no, it hasn't been all roses. Like, it's interesting because so we retire. My wife and I, we bought, enough rental properties to basically retire from our, there's different levels of financial dependence, I think, where the first one is like, and it's hard sometimes to conceptualize the next one until you're at that first one, but like is covering your expenses, right? So maybe if you could need $3,000 or $4,000 a month to cover your expenses, then great. You don't technically need to work, but you can't maintain the same lifestyle, but that is good to have that additional income. And then the next level would be, all right, well, let me replace my income in my job. And then the next level is like, okay, well, let me actually increase my means to be able to, increase my lifestyle, or maybe live, not that you need to live this luxurious lifestyle, but just like have access to more, right? And improve quality of life. And then the fourth one would be generational wealth. But as we got to the point where it's like, okay, my wife and I were both earning 6-figure income through our optometry careers, and we replaced that with real estate, and then we kind of like took some time, and it's like, well, what do we do next? And we really enjoyed real estate, and so the foundation of Rent to Retirement was like just helping people do what we're doing, and then Matt, it's like, oh man, and then I got tied back into a job, and then it's like, oh well, now we're running a business, and this wasn't the goal, and it's just been a challenge back and forth and a constant battle. And there's always things to deal with, and sometimes if you have issues with contractors or even investors, sometimes investors like come in and like we talk about. And I'm happy to sell turnkey to anybody, but I also want to like set expectations. If you're going to own physical real estate, you have all the same risks that you do with any other physical asset, right? Like otherwise, some people are just better off putting their money in syndication and fund whatever. But if you want to own physical real estate, which I do think produces overall better returns long term and has a lot of benefits available. But like if you're going to lose sleep with a tenant not paying their rent, then maybe that property ownership isn't right for you, or maybe you need to rethink that. Anyways, back to your question, some of the biggest challenges we've had in just like running a business is just hiring the right people. There's always challenges. I've always had pride that we've been able to be successful in real estate and business in general, because I'm generally a creative problem solver, because there's always a solution. So many people get stuck in the like just putting their head in the sand or just focusing on the negative. Like if you're in this game or business in general, like there's always going to be issues, but you need to know how to solve those. And there's always usually multiple solutions. And some people are quick to just throw their hands up in the air. So we've had, I have countless actual big issues. We can go there if you want. Some of the biggest issues we've had problems is having the wrong partnerships, jumping into the wrong partnerships too quickly. We've lost 7 figures, and lots of business and time with the wrong partnerships. And that's been challenging. But also out of those, dealing with that, I had one partner that we were dealing with where we were actually funding a rehab project for him. This is large syndication, and we were just a GP on the funding side, and he ended up going bankrupt on it. And it's like, and it's 5 years into the project, and it was really unfortunate. And the bankruptcy's still going for 5 years. But then throughout that process too, where it's like, oh, we actually, networked with people that we formed relationships with and partners with, where we made more of that money back already, and then plus some. So you just never know. But I don't know. I can go on and on about just random tangents here, but I guess the point is that obstacles come up and just deal with them, and we've had our fair share of them.
Yeah, and that's the value of you as an individual in this world, is to be able to solve problems, specifically in the business segment, right? People that get paid the most money solve the biggest problems out there. And if you're afraid of problems, then chances are you're not going to get paid at a high level. Yeah,
100%. And that's, and it's also learning. One of my main mentors when I was early in real estate investing was, he said it like this. He said, in real estate, you either learn or you make money, or you make money or you learn. And that was his way of saying you lost money, but he wouldn't admit that. So, those are all lessons, right? It's interesting because I spent $500,000 in 8 years of my life going to school to work as an optometrist when in a career path that I don't even work in anymore. We still do volunteer work. And it's not because I didn't like that career path. I like helping people see, but but people don't want to pay $10,000 for an education course. Now, granted, there's a lot of gurus, or they don't want to, they're like, it costs money, right? Sometimes that's the school of hard knocks. If you're going to lose 10 grand on a property, go and earn it back. Like, that's just a lesson, right? And if you apply that lesson over time, you're gonna make more money on that mistake. You just gotta put in the work.
I remember buying my first property and I spent like $42,000 on a down payment, and a lot of people were nervous because they had gone through 2008, 2010 time period. And I just justified it like, that's the cost of an MBA. I'm going to learn how to manage a property, lease a property, run a property, get debt on that property, eventually dispose of the property. And if all goes to hell and I lose all of that money, well, that was cheaper than an MBA. And I guarantee I would have learned more through that process. And it took me a while to get that mental frame, right? It's not like I just sent that money without thinking through that, but that's ultimately where I got, and it was the best decision I ever made.
Hands-on experience. And yeah, it is hard to see through that, but just have some faith in that. You know what I mean? Real estate's a fun game. It's a lifelong journey. And if you stick with it, if you get started and you go through some of the obstacles and you stick with it, it will pay dividends. And, the best thing is teaching your kids, I think, on how to, do the same thing and be successful entrepreneurs or real estate investors or both.
Yep. Well, Zach, fantastic conversation. I want to shift this now to our last round. We're calling this the 5 toppings. Our first one is, what is your favorite book, or what is a book you've read recently that's given you a paradigm shift?
I've shifted a lot of my reading, and we were talking before the show, Matt. I got a 2-year-old and a girl on the way here, and so I don't have a lot of time to read. But I've shifted a lot of my listening to more business-oriented stuff instead of real estate-specific stuff. So I like a lot of Alex Hormozi's stuff, $100 Million Offer. But at the end of the day. And this is nothing new, but the Kiyosaki stuff is just, you go back to that, and that's just a great foundational type of book. If you haven't read it, obviously read Rich Dad Poor Dad or listen to it, and then the Cash Flow Quadrant follow-up. I like Gary, for real estate specific, I like Gary Keller's The Millionaire Real Estate Investor. That's just bread and butter of like how to think like a millionaire real estate investor and go out and do it. And then Michael Gerber's I'm blanking on it. The E-Myth, the entrepreneurial myth, or the E-Myth revisited on how to work on your business, in your business. I think those are some good ones.
Yeah, there's a reason why Kiyosaki's books get mentioned so much. People say it's overhyped. I'm like, there's a reason why it's overhyped.
I used to, and when I first read those, because a lot of it is mindset, right? And I remember as an early investor, like, give me less of this conceptual stuff. Give me the concrete stuff. And now it's more like the conceptual stuff is really important. And so I go back, and that's one book I'll read, and it's an easy read, thankfully for my case, but I'll go back and reread it once a year. Necessary.
Yep. Our second one is, I believe that the person you become 10 years from now is directly correlated to the habits that you have and the things you do every day. What are some of the things that you do every day?
I am a workaholic, and so I'll spend a lot of time. I always make a point, though, I guess, as far as like habits that have helped me been successful over time. I'm a morning person. I realize that some people say you have to follow the miracle morning and get up and follow this routine. I don't. I just get up early, and my routine is coffee and start working. But that's my peaceful time, especially with young kids. That surely helps, but that may not be the same for everyone. So you just have to find your time where you're like shut out and focused, because that's when you're truly going to be productive. I think so many of us think we're productive because we're in front of a computer or answering email, but we're not like actually being productive on something. And everyone needs to find that time, and you'd be surprised how much you can get accomplished with 2 serious productive hours a day, when people will spend 8 or 9 hours a day at work and don't get, barely anything done. But that's just finding those times where I can disconnect, no texts, no emails, just a project, and clear thinking has been paramount for me.
I agree. Our third one is, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I know we went over this beforehand, and this is one that I had a hard time thinking about. I don't know if there's any epiphany on advice that I can really give to someone beyond just that. I mentioned what one of my mentors told me previously, but I guess that kind of alludes to the overall picture of you gotta you got to stick through it, right? I mean, and I'll say this, Matt, because it kind of goes into this scenario as well, is that, in real estate investing or business or whatever, a lot of us get into this analysis paralysis, and it's normal. We're all guilty of it from time to time. We all get the shiny object syndrome, and we're, distracted. You gotta set yourself a goal. You gotta write it down. You gotta tell people about it. You gotta have a clear timeline, and then you gotta do it. You gotta take action on it, and and then you gotta stick with it even if you fail at that goal. And like, for instance, if your goal is to earn $5,000 a month of passive income through real estate or whatever, do not stop. And we know that that's possible, and for the average person to do that. And so you just need to keep doing that. You need to get started to begin with. And if something's not working, you just have to have the tenacity to continue to get through that. I'm the type of person that tends to jump the gun and the kind of the ready, fire, aim mindset, which has gotten me into trouble in a lot of cases, but it's also served me extremely well because I simply took action, and that's what has allowed me to learn. And I've had plenty of people that have told me that over time, but just simply kind of applying that rule to my life has allowed us to, just far exceed things in business we never thought we would have been able to.
Yeah, I like to say the phrase, get going and then get good. So many people, analysis paralysis, it's got to be perfect before I even start because I need a step-by-step plan. Once you start something, your plan's going out the window anyway, so you might as well get going and then figure out how you get good.
Yeah,
Our fourth one,
I like that.
Our fourth one is, what are you most proud of in your life?
These are some deep ones, man. I need some, I do need some ice cream right now to go through and allow me to contemplate on this stuff. But I think that what I'm most proud of in life is it used to be, it's evolved. A lot of it was like, man, I remember when I bought my first property, or when I was a young captain in the Air Force, and I was probably, I don't know how old I was then, 25, 26. And then I had a few rental properties, and then I was looking at all my colleagues, and they were blowing money on cars and, and girls and partying and stuff, which I did to some degree, but, I still was like, instead of going out for the weekend or whatever, I was out of the rental property, when I used to self-manage and fixing things. And I was super proud of that. And then it's like, and then we got to the point where we were able to quit our job, and I was proud of the money side of stuff. And proud, obviously, of building a family and being a father, as I'm a fairly newer father. Just, our oldest son is 2, and we got another one on the way. But what really makes me proud right now, and I think what it keeps me going in this business, is the fact that I really like and really feel rewarded when we have people that are kind of in that newer stage to invest, or they're hitting an obstacle, and we're able to help them either get started or take it to that next level. And sometimes these are even full-time investors, right, that get to this crux point and they get stuck, or they want to do something different. And then we're able to help them, and it's like, see the impact on their life. And especially like when someone, and this happens more often now, but sometimes we'll have people that will have them or help them start their portfolio in turnkey, whether it's their first few properties or first few out of state. They'll come back around in 5 or 6 years and, thank us then, when we may not have got a thank you initially, because that gave them the confidence and kind of the framework, and maybe sure they learned some lessons and tools from us that they applied to their own investing, and they never bought turnkey again, but they were able to build a very successful business. And I think that was kind of the foundation. That's cool to see. Like, we had one guy on our podcast the other day that was, this guy was up to 200 doors and running a full-on business, and he bought his first 3 properties with us in, Minnesota, like 8 years ago. Is like, oh man, that's crazy. But those success stories, I think, is really what keeps me in the business. And
yeah. Well, once you climb the ladder of success, it's your duty to send it back down, and you're doing it through your business.
100%. And it's less about money at that point, right? It's the rewarding aspect of it, and that's, some people don't realize that, but it's truly the motivation that keeps you going.
Yep. Our fifth and last one is, if you could sit down and eat a bowl of ice cream with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
So many choices. I thought the initial question was limited to still alive, but if we're expanding it to anyone in past history, oh my gosh, man, I don't know. There's a lot of people and presidents that I would want to sit down with, but I think still, I would love to have a conversation. I'd love to get in a good old battle about economics with Kiyosaki. We've had him scheduled as a guest on our show, and then he was unable to attend. But we've had some high level people as well. But I love his sometimes cynical view on things. So we'll go with him for now.
Okay. All right. Well, Zach, fantastic conversation. I love what you guys are doing over there. I mean, I remember hearing about your company in like 2015 or 16 time period, and it's so cool to see the growth that you all have had. If our listeners wanted to reach out and learn more about Rent to Retirement or reach out to you, where's the best place we can point them?
I think the website is the best place to start. That's got a link to all our social media. That's rent2retirement.com, rent2retirement.com. We put out a lot of content, just really on everything real estate, not just turnkey investing. Of course, we'd be happy to speak with you about different markets and your investing goals. If you think turnkey is the right fit, you can call 800-311-6781 if you're listening to this on the road and you want to schedule with someone. But yeah, ultimately, we'd love to share resources with you. Our goal is to add as much value as we can to every single person, whether you're invested with us or not. And that's what keeps us in the business. So.
Awesome. We'll link all those in the show notes. And then Zach, thanks for coming on.
Thanks so much, Matt. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Ice Cream with Investors. If you like what we serve you here, it would mean the world to me if you would like, subscribe, and leave a review on your favorite podcast app.